My mom pulled me aside and said, "Next week is just special. You being there would ruin that." My dad added, "You're too different now." I clinked my fork to my glass. Duly noted. That night, I reversed every Italy charge, locked their rail passes, and cancelled their airport transfers. At check-in, they were denied everything. My brother's text came first, "Unblock the account now." I replied, I was so angry I couldn't sleep. They planned it all without me. A dream vacation through Italy, Venice to Florence to Rome. Booked down to the last detail. Luxury hotels, high-speed trains, a private vineyard tour in Tuscany, dinner reservations at places you have to know someone to even get on the wait list. They planned it for themselves, and they used my money to do it. Not a single mention of me. Not my name, not my daughter Ava's, not my son Luke's. Just mom, dad, my sister Melanie, her husband Josh, and their 2 kids. That was the family they had in mind, the one that mattered. It hit me when I saw the email confirmation. It wasn't even supposed to come to me. Melanie must have forwarded it by accident. It listed everything: dates, travelers, the itinerary. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. I sat there rereading it, waiting to see my name tucked somewhere in the footnotes. It never came. 6 months ago, Mom had floated the idea during one of our usual Sunday dinners. She said she'd always dreamed of doing a big family trip. Said she wanted the kids to experience Europe while they were still young. She mentioned that Melanie and Josh were strapped for cash, and she asked if I'd be willing to help cover the upfront costs. Said she'd settle it later. I said, yes, of course. No hesitation. I just landed a big consulting contract and wanted to do something meaningful for the family, something that would bring us closer. I paid for the whole thing: flights, hotels, rail passes, the works. And then they cut me out of it completely. I didn't confront them right away. I waited for Sunday. They were all there acting like nothing had happened. Mom served baked ZT like it was just another weekend. Dad talked about golf. Melanie sat there smiling like the knife hadn't already been twisted. After dinner, I brought up the trip. I casually said, "Italy sounds beautiful this time of year." Silence. Mom looked at me and said, "Next week is just special, and me being there would ruin it." Dad leaned back and said, "You're too different now." No one disagreed. Not one of them spoke up. It was like they all rehearsed it. I clinked my fork against my glass. Duly noted. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for an explanation. I took my kids home, helped them get ready for bed. And once the house was quiet, I got to work. Everything was still in my name: every hotel room, every pass, every transfer. They hadn't touched the billing. They didn't even have the courtesy to hide their arrogance. I reversed every charge one by one. Froze the travel cards. Locked the rail passes. Cancelled the transfers. Hotel reservations gone. I sat back and watched it all burn. By 7:42 the next morning, Josh sent the first text, "Unblock the account now." I replied, "Sorry, I'm too different now." Then came the calls from Mom, the emails from Dad. Melanie texted me a screenshot of her crying daughter and said I was being cruel, but I didn't answer. They wanted to make this trip about their family? Fine, let them figure it out on their own dime. And they still didn't know this was just the beginning. They strutted into JFK like they owned the place. First-class tickets, matching luggage sets. Josh even wore loafers with no socks, like he thought that made him European already. I saw it all on Melanie's Instagram story captioned, "Ciao, Bella," with a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking. I wasn't even angry at that point, just waiting. They had no clue everything was gone. I hadn't just reversed the charges and cancelled the bookings. I'd called every hotel and explained the situation. Cancelled the airport car in Rome and the vineyard tour in Chianti. I flagged the rail passes as stolen. Changed the login details on the travel portal. I left no trace of the trip ever being theirs. I knew the exact moment it started to fall apart. Their flight was set to board at 6:40 p.m. At 6:12, I got a text from Josh, "Why are we being denied boarding?" Then Melanie, "Did you cancel the flights?" Then a barrage of calls, all ignored. It must have been chaos. 4 adults and 2 kids standing at the gate with stunned faces, trying to understand why a trip that was supposedly fully paid for suddenly didn't exist. I imagined Melanie getting loud, Josh pretending to be calm, Dad trying to flex some imaginary authority. Mom probably just standing there furious. Someone told her no. I sat in my kitchen with Ava and Luke and helped them make pizza from scratch. They didn't know anything. I wanted it that way. They still think Grandma and Grandpa had to cancel their trip because something came up. Around 9 p.m., the text shifted in tone. "Josh, you're acting psychotic. You're hurting your own family. Melanie, your kids will hear about this one day." I didn't answer either. I let the silence work. Then, Dad sent a message that almost made me laugh. "You've embarrassed us. You've gone too far." I replied, "Hope it was still special." Next morning, I saw their car in the driveway. They were back 20 hours after takeoff, defeated and exhausted. That's when the new game started, the second layer of this whole disaster. At 3:47 p.m., the doorbell rang. It was Mom. No makeup, hair pulled back. Her tone was somewhere between neutral and annoyed. She didn't start with an apology, not even close. She said, "All right, you made your point." I let her talk. She went on about how these kinds of stunts drive wedges in families, how I needed to be more understanding, how it wasn't fair to ruin something they had planned for so long just because I felt excluded. Then she said, "Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the backyard. The contractor's still scheduled to start next month and we don't want to lose the date. Your dad said you might be able to help cover the deposit." I looked at her. She honestly believed I'd come around, that some part of me still wanted in. That money was just something I'd always provide because that's what I'd always done. I nodded slowly. "Let me look at my accounts," I said. "I'll let you know by the end of the week." She smiled like she thought she'd won something back. She left satisfied. And that was perfect because now it was my turn to play. The quiet was strategic. I could feel it, like they were giving me just enough space to save face. Not out of respect, but calculation. In their minds, I was probably sulking, regretting what I'd done at the airport, running out of steam. They assumed I'd come crawling back with a check and an apology, like always. They didn't realize something had finally broken in me. On Thursday, the first feeler came in. Melanie texted like she was messaging a coworker, "Hey, Mom said you were thinking about helping with the backyard thing. Just let us know so we can confirm with the contractor." There wasn't even a question in there. No warmth, just that blank family tone they always used when they needed something. I left it unread for a couple of hours. Then I answered, still sorting some stuff out. "We'll let you know soon." That soon turned into tomorrow, then the day after. By Friday morning, Mom sent a longer message, "Contractor needs the deposit today to hold the schedule. We're trying not to lose the fall install window. Can you confirm?" I wrote back, "I might be able to send half. Let me check with my bank." I didn't check anything. Saturday, nothing from me. Sunday, still quiet. Monday, Dad called. I watched his name buzz on my screen and let it ring out. A minute later, the text came, "We're not trying to pressure you. Just need to know what's happening so we can plan." I texted back, "Totally get it. Should have an answer soon." And I let that soon stretch again. Wednesday afternoon, Melanie sent a voice memo. I didn't even listen. Just stared at the waveform. It was probably her pretending to be nice, pretending to understand, pretending this was all normal. Later that night, I finally replied, "Talk to the bank today. Small issue with a flagged transaction. I think I can send it by Friday." That was the final hook. The one that made them wait again, that made them circle another date on the calendar with hope. Friday came and passed. No payment, no message. Saturday morning, Dad wrote, "We told the contractor we'd handle it ourselves. Don't worry about it." Then a separate one from Mom, "If you still want to pitch in later, every bit helps." I could feel the frustration brewing under those words. Not because of the money, but because I wasn't doing what I'd always done, rescue them. Smooth it all over. Make the uncomfortable go away. And now they were stuck with the discomfort. Melanie sent a photo that night. Their backyard, patchy grass, a few white flags marking where a patio might have gone. She captioned it, "Still hoping to make something happen before the weather turns." I didn't respond. I just stared at it. The space between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was growing on purpose. For the first time in my life, I was done making sure they were okay. And they were just starting to feel what that meant. A week slipped by with nothing but silence. Not a single message from Mom, Dad, or Melanie. No polite nudges about the backyard. No updates about rescheduling the trip. Just nothing. It would have felt peaceful if I didn't know them so well. They weren't moving on. They were regrouping, waiting me out, trying to make me feel like I was the one who walked away. Then something came in from left field. I got a text from my cousin Erica, "Hey, just checking in. Grandma's really upset about the Italy thing. You okay?" It stopped me cold. Grandma? She hadn't been mentioned once in this whole mess. She lives alone in Albany, hasn't traveled in over a decade. She's the kind of person who sends handwritten thank you notes and remembers everyone's birthdays. Always stayed out of family drama. I asked Erica what Grandma was upset about. She said, "Melanie told her you canceled the trip out of nowhere and made them lose thousands. Grandma's confused and thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown." So that was it. They were already rewriting the story. I was no longer the guy who footed the bill and got excluded. I was now the unstable son who sabotaged a wholesome family trip. Of course, they would twist it that way. They always controlled the narrative, until now. I called Grandma. She answered right away, voice quiet but heavy. "Peter," she said, "what happened, honey?" I told her everything. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't vent. I just laid it all out, how they asked me to pay months ago, how they planned every detail without me or my kids, how I found out by mistake, and how when I brought it up, they told me I'd ruin the trip just by being there. She didn't interrupt once. After a long pause, she said, "That's not what they told me. They said you refused to go. Said you canceled the cards in a fit of anger." I told her that wasn't even close. She was quiet again. Then she said, "I'm so sorry, Peter. I don't know what's wrong with them." That was all I needed to hear. But the fallout came quickly. An hour after that call, I got a text from Mom. Did you just tell Grandma some twisted version of events? Then Melanie, you're making things worse. She's old, Peter. She doesn't need stress like this. Josh even chimed in, this is toxic behavior, man. You're turning people against their own family. I read each one and just felt done. Not angry, not sad, just completely done. They had excluded me, lied about it, tried to manipulate Grandma, and now had the nerve to accuse me of being divisive. So I replied with one final message, sent to the group chat with all 4 of them. Effective immediately, I'm stepping back from helping financially. No more vacations, no more renovations, no loans, no we'll pay you back texts. If I'm too different to be part of the family, then I'm too different to fund it. Best of luck with the backyard. I hit send and put my phone down. No one replied that night. Not because they were shocked, but because they finally understood I meant it. About a week after I cut them off, Melanie called me out of nowhere. Full phone call, not a text. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that was almost comical in tone, all upbeat and sweet, like we were catching up after a vacation. Said she'd been thinking about what I said and that we should all get together soon. She even threw in, the kids miss you, like that was some magic phrase. A few days later, Mom sent me a picture of a stack of cheap patio stones dumped in their yard. No workers, no progress, just a mess. She wrote, we're still going to try and make it work ourselves. Found a good deal locally. It was a move. Subtle, careful, just enough to imply, look how hard we're trying without you, while still giving me a door to walk through if I wanted to come crawling back. I replied, looks promising. Let me know if you need help hauling. That cracked the door open just enough, and like clockwork, they walked right in. Mom texted a long paragraph about how every family goes through seasons and how she hoped I knew that money wasn't why we wanted you around. She said we all just got a little lost in the middle of planning and that maybe it was time for a reset. Melanie messaged me separately. She said she'd been feeling off ever since the airport fiasco and wanted to reconnect. No pressure. She asked if we could grab coffee next week just to talk. No expectations. Even Josh, who usually stuck to single-word messages or passive-aggressive emojis, texted, I think I overreacted. We all did. No hard feelings. It was an impressive pivot, like a full-on rebranding campaign. Suddenly, I wasn't toxic or unstable or too different. I was valuable again, useful. So, I decided to give them a taste of their own medicine. I told Melanie I'd love to meet. Picked a date and time. She sent a little heart emoji back and even said she'd buy. Then the morning of, I canceled. Said something vague about a work call running long. She was disappointed but polite. Totally understand. Let's reschedule soon. We didn't. A few days later, Mom asked if I might be able to chip in a little for gravel delivery. Just $300 to help cover the shortfall. I said I'd check some things and get back to her. I didn't. Dad mentioned they were looking into firewood delivery for winter. Said the supplier they used last year raised prices. I told him to send me the link. Said I'd see what I can do. He did. I didn't. And every time they followed up, I sent back the same tone they used with me for years, empty kindness, polite avoidance, vague interest with zero commitment. It worked better than I thought. Melanie went silent first, stopped replying to even the basic texts. Then Mom's messages got shorter, more spaced out, and then stopped altogether. Josh unfollowed me on Instagram. Dad didn't send his usual happy birthday group text to the whole family when October rolled around. That one was weird. It had gone out like clockwork for a decade. The funniest part was that they couldn't say anything about it. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't yelled, hadn't cursed, hadn't told them off. I had just become them. The version of them that'd always been to me. All promises, no payment, all surface, no substance. And I think for the first time, they felt what it was like to be on the outside of their own games. It must have been hell. Thanksgiving came like it always does, creeping up while you're still convinced it's barely October. But this year, something was different. My phone stayed quiet. Not a single group text from Mom. No passive-aggressive reminder from Melanie, please RSVP this year, like she used to send. No half-hearted invite from Dad, usually added as a forwarded message, like an afterthought. It was the first time in my entire life I wasn't invited. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask. I didn't send a hey, what's the plan? Text just to pretend like I wasn't waiting for one myself. Instead, on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I saw it all play out on social media. Melanie had gone full Pinterest this year. There was a long table set for 10 with mini pumpkins as placeholders, handwritten name cards, napkins folded into little fans. She captioned it, grateful for the real ones. Every chair was filled. Every plate had a name. Mine wasn't one of them. Neither was Ava's or Luke's. It was deliberate. It wasn't about forgetting. It wasn't about a miscommunication. They made a choice. No Peter. No reminder of what had shifted. Just the carefully curated version of family. The one that didn't challenge them. The one that never asked them to feel guilty or accountable. I didn't tell Ava and Luke anything. We made our own dinner. Not turkey. They voted for homemade mac and cheese and waffles. So that's what we did. We ate on the couch, watched old movies, and laughed so hard I actually forgot for a moment what day it was. A few days later, I bumped into Erica again. Grocery store parking lot. Same awkward half smile. They didn't invite you? She asked, even though she already knew the answer. Nope, I said. First year. She nodded slowly. Melanie told Grandma it was just simpler this way. Less tension, less tension. That's how they phrased cutting me and my kids out completely. Like we were background noise they could mute. Like their problem wasn't what they did to me, but how uncomfortable it made them to look at it. Christmas came next, and I didn't even bother checking my phone. The only photo I saw was from a neighbor who follows Melanie on Instagram. She posted a family photo in front of the fireplace. Matching pajamas, 5 stockings, hot cocoa, the usual. I zoomed in out of curiosity. There were names on the stockings. None for my kids. No Ava, no Luke, no me, not even a just-in-case placeholder hung at the end. The message couldn't have been clearer. They weren't just excluding me. They were erasing us. At first, it stung. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. But that pain didn't last. It turned into something colder, quieter. Not bitterness, just distance. A kind of emotional silence I didn't know I was capable of. By January, I stopped checking for their names in my notifications. I took Ava and Luke to Seattle for New Year's. Just us. We walked through Pike Place in the rain, rode the Ferris wheel, bought overpriced souvenirs, and stayed in a hotel that had a fireplace and robes that made them laugh. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't planned down to the second. It was real. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel left out. I felt free. Funny thing is, that year was my best financially. I landed 3 new clients, finally closed out a nightmare project from the year before, and had more money sitting in my accounts than I'd ever had in my life. I could have bought Melanie's entire backyard twice over. Could have paid for their trip again and upgraded every seat. Could have handed them a blank check just to prove a point. Instead, I installed a heated driveway at my place and started planning a summer road trip with my kids. No group chat needed. No approval required. They stopped inviting me, not because I changed, but because I stopped accepting their rules. I stopped making it easy to use me and ignore me at the same time. And once the money was gone, once I made it clear that nothing else came with it, not silence, not forgiveness, not a smile, they had no idea how to treat me anymore. So they didn't. They cut me out to protect their comfort. And I stayed out to protect my peace. 2 months passed. It was February when I got the envelope. Plain, no return address, just my name written in Mom's handwriting, shaky like she wasn't sure whether to send it. I stood in the kitchen staring at it for a while. Could have tossed it, but curiosity won. Inside was a folded letter and a check. The letter was short, 2 paragraphs. The first said they were reaching out to repair what's left. The second said the check was for your share of the Italy trip since you didn't attend. It was for $3,600. I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because of the amount, but because they still thought this was about money. Like they could tie a ribbon around that week, refund my missed experience, and pretend none of it happened. As if writing me a check would cancel out the way they cut me and my kids out of their lives. I didn't cash it. I stuck it to the fridge with a magnet and let it sit there. 3 days later, I got a message from Joshua, just 1 sentence, "We need to talk." I ignored it. Then Melanie texted, "Grandma's in the hospital. She asked for you." That one made me pause. I called the hospital, confirmed it was true. Mild heart issue, nothing critical, but she'd asked for me twice. So, I drove up. When I walked in, she smiled like I hadn't missed a beat. Like we hadn't skipped 2 holidays and a dozen family functions. We talked for an hour, mostly about books, weather, random things. Then she said, "Don't let them write the end without you." I didn't know what to say. On the way home, I stopped by a diner and sat in my car with a coffee, staring at that check again in my mind. That night, Melanie called again. This time, I picked up. She jumped straight in, said they wanted to reset everything. Said maybe it was time for a real talk. She didn't apologize, not exactly. But she said the kids asked why they hadn't seen Ava and Luke in so long. She said maybe we should get everyone together soon. Then the part I didn't see coming, she said Mom and Dad were talking about selling the house. The money from the sale, she said, might go into a shared account for family needs. She called it that, and they were hoping I'd contribute too, to build something future-focused. I didn't even respond. I just ended the call. The next morning, I mailed the check back. No note, just the check. That was the end. Not with a fight, not with yelling, just silence. Since then, nothing. No messages, no calls, no fake family brunches. It's like they finally realized I was done playing alone. No more leverage, no more fallback. The group thread stopped buzzing. Birthdays passed unmentioned. The house eventually sold, I heard through Erica. They bought a smaller place outside the city. No one invited me to see it. I don't think they hate me. I think I scared them because I wasn't bitter. I wasn't dramatic. I didn't try to win. I just left. And I didn't look back.